Yo, what's up, guys? This is Why Not Be Reckless, aka Why Not Be Casting. I'm one of the HCS commentators, and today we have another HCS weekly report where today we're going to be talking about Gamers First. That's right, G1. We're going to take a look at the team looking right now, how they've gotten to where they are today, kind of where they've been, and then we're also going to look at expectations for them going into Orlando and ultimately Worlds as well. These guys have championship mindset. They're looking to get to that next step, and we're going to see if they're on the right direction. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Gamers First, currently made up of Boo Boo Doo, by the way, formerly of that FaZe roster, left out in the cold, really, and looking for a new home. And he tried out with a bunch of teams. We've seen him scrimming with a lot, and eventually he finds himself on this Gamers First roster. And a lot of people questioned the move, but eventually they learned. Joining him is going to be Pre-Devinator. Been on this roster since the start of Halo Infinite, to my knowledge. Former military man, an absolute slayer, an absolute player on the map. You have to account for Dev at all moments. He was a former teammate of Boo Boo Doo back in the Halo 5 days. And on top of that, he used to team with Contra. They were known as a little bit of that duo. Next to him is going to be Squale. And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know too much about Squale. I'm still learning about him every single day, but what I do know is that his coach Eli has let me know that don't be surprised if you see him shooting in the 70th percentile as far as accuracy, because the man simply hits shots. And if you can hit shots like that, there's always going to be a place for you in the league. And then you have Swish, who's been around for quite some time, you know, known as a top amateur, but also known as kind of like that gatekeeper between the amateur scene and the pro scene, and now kind of making his name as a solidified professional player here on this Gamers First roster. So this is the roster currently right now, but it has changed a lot. And I want to take a look at that. I want to go all the way back to their first tournament and kind of talk about their placings and how they got to where they are today. So you're seeing, by the way, co-owned by Kenny Vaccaro, former NFL player, which is the coolest thing in the world. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later. And then Mikowski, a former competitive player herself. And then I kind of mentioned before, Eli the Ninja is the coach who just moved out to Texas not too long ago. But yeah, let's go all the way from the beginning. Actually, let's go to tournament. Let's go all the way from the beginning, where Squale, Dev, Sargot, and Gunshot competed in the Open Series on November 21st, 2021. So very early in the team's life cycle. At this point, Swish was he was on Oxygen Esports. At this point, I believe Boo Boo Doo was still on FaZe. So very early in their career, we had a top 48 finish. So not exactly what you want to see out of them, but the very next week, same squad, top 6 during the Open Series. So that's quite a bit of a glow up, if you ask me. You go from 48th place to top 6 literally in 1 week. So right off the bat, we knew that this was going to be real, but this also during the Open Series. So I'm not sure exactly how many of the professional players were playing it. We know now that in the Open Series today, almost none of the top teams compete in it, and it's a little bit of a mosh pit. Moving on. During the qualifier, they were able to get top 12 for Raleigh, and then actually during Raleigh, we're able to get top 24, again, rocking that same roster. Squale, Devinator, Sargot, and Gunshot. Top 24 is not bad, and it definitely put them on our radar, but we soon find out that that's nowhere near their expectation. That was nowhere near their peak, and they were looking to move forward from there. Moving on, eventually we see them swap out a few players, and going into Anaheim, they're rocking Squale and Devinator, and then joining them was Ali, formerly known as Commonly, an X Games gold medalist commonly, and then Marbs, who I didn't know too much about him either going into the event, but let me tell you, man, he was a nice kid. And from what was described to me by Mikowski, he was always willing to do the dirty work, willing to do anything possible in order to win. So that was huge out of them. That was at Anaheim. It was Squale, Devinator, Ali, and Mars. We're noticing a little bit of a pattern here. Every tournament, they're changing players a little bit. They're trying to find that secret formula. And you start off top 24 on your first LAN. Second land, you're at top 16, by the way. Not bad whatsoever. And let's see if they go up from there, because obviously expectations are getting higher. And with that, there was, by the way, I don't know if you guys saw that documentary. There was some issues between this squad. I don't know, man. It got loud. It got personal. I thought they were going to go to blows when I was watching that documentary. So it's probably a good thing that they separated. Otherwise, who knows what would have happened. Moving on from there, eventually we find ourselves in the phase invitational, which is not a major LAN. However, it was a big tournament. I think it was $50,000 on the surface, and then due to, I want to say, crowdfunding or extra funding from HCS, it ended up being $75,000. So G1 did not have an automatic spot. They invited 12 teams, and then 4 teams had to make it through a qualifier in order to make it to the next stage. So G1 literally not getting the respect they felt like they deserved, but still have to earn, obviously, because they were still very young in their career, and having to go through the qualifier, end up getting themselves the queue, and then getting themselves top 16 at the event itself, which didn't net any prize pool for that particular tournament, but it moves up from there. So next LAN event, we talked about it, top 24, top 16. Now we're going into Kansas City, where they bring in Tony Toot Turnt and Swish. So this is where Swish finally enters in, and so far he remained on the roster. Tony Toot Turnt, who, let me tell you, man, former Call of Duty player from what I've heard, and loud, proud, passionate, and a gunner, man. Tony's going to have a bright future in this league. He also might get into a few fights in this league, but either way, I love to talk trash myself. I'm a huge barker, and sometimes you can ask yourself if we went a little bit too far sometimes, but either way, it was always entertaining, and this skill cannot be denied. And in Kansas City, again, every LAN from 24th to top 16, now a top 12 finisher. They're going up one round every single time, every major LAN event, which is huge. I mean, you're starting off at 48th place. Now you're in top 12. Now you're talking about legitimately contending for the Big 8, for the Big 4, but not quite there yet. Moving on, we obviously had a couple open series events, and during those open series events, top 8, 3rd, 4th, 3rd. We're talking huge, and then eventually during a back-to-back open series, and that's where people started to open their eyes. I put out a tweet saying, because it wasn't just the open series tournaments, because again, when they started doing this, everybody was like, oh, well, it's just the open series tournaments, so we're not gonna give them credit just yet. We're not gonna give them credence right now. It's just open series. None of the big boys apply. I'm like, hold on, you guys aren't opening your eyes, because it's not just the open series tournaments. I'm over here, so I post their scrim results against Sentinels, Optic, and Cloud9, and I'm over here. I'm just saying, when are we gonna talk about them being the real deal? Because it wasn't just the open series events where they were finding themselves some success, but it was on top of that, it was all the grind you were seeing. It was the championship mindset, both inside and outside, and the fact that they were doing it in scrims against the Elite 3. But no one wanted to give them credit. In fact, even Frosty replied to my tweet and had some choice words for me. So going into the North American Super, oh, please tell me they have the bracket. I'll be so bad. They have a bracket. Okay. So going to North American Super, we have G1 able to 3-1 G2. By the way, G2 had barcode, and G2 have looked better than we've ever seen them. Let's be honest. G2 were a laughing stock early in the season. They were looking like the real deal, but G1 3-1 them. G1 then get 3-0'd by Sentinels in the winners bracket. I mean, come on, the Sentinels, they're fresh off of a Kansas City win. There's no way that G1 can beat Sentinels, right? Come on now, we're talking about Sentinels. There is no way that G1 can beat Sentinels, right? Right? Going into elimination bracket, their first match in the elimination bracket, fighting for their tournament life, they go up against Cloud9 in a Game 5 win against Cloud9. G1 were able to come out on top, and let me tell you, it was crazy. It went down to the wire, and we're talking about one or two mistakes either way cost that actual game. It was beautiful to watch, and it was one hell of a series, and these two left it all on the line and duked it out. Going into the next series, they match up against Sentinels. Sentinels swept them in the winner's bracket, knocked them down to elimination bracket. At this point, everybody's saying G1 had an amazing run, but your tournament ends here. And they go back and sweep the very team that knocked them into elimination bracket to begin with. And at that point, everybody's jaws just dropped. You know, because in a game 5, you can ice up. You can clutch up against a team like Cloud9. That's good. But, you know, with every win comes a bit of luck, especially going into a game 5 Slayer on Catalyst. Like, you know, at that point, it could have been all luck at that point. But you can't deny the re-owing, the dynasty, fighting for their tournament life. And at that point, jaws dropped. And people realized, like, hold on. This G1 team, we got to keep our eyes on them. They might just be the... Obviously, Optic Gaming had their way with them, but G1 able to make it to a grand finals, nets them that second place finish they were looking for. And we're not just talking about second place in open. We're not talking about, you know, none of the top teams competing. We're talking about the best of the best. And they had to go through them. They had to go through G2, Sentinels, and Cloud9 to get here. Incredibly played by G1 in that North American Super. And then you ask yourself, okay, one great tournament, you know, because we've seen G1 consistently be good. But now the question is, can they consistently be great? Once you get second place in a major tournament, $125,000. Hold on one second. $125,000 on the line, and you can produce on that stage. At that point, it's no longer, oh, these guys are the underdogs. These guys, you know, they have a high ceiling. They have great potential. No, now you have expectations. Now people are looking at you. Now people are expecting from you. The question is, where have they been since? You know, are we talking about a team that might have fell off since then? Are we talking about a team that maybe had one hot run and then going into scrims and whatnot, they fall off? Let's find out. G1, 7-5 win over Cloud9. This was just yesterday, by the way. So, just yesterday, a 7-5 win in scrims at Cloud9. Again, I'm not going to put everything on scrims, but I'm also not going to say that scrims don't matter at all, because I disagree with that. You don't go into practice. You don't go into these scrims expecting to lose. You don't go into these scrims expecting to get 13-0'd. You're ultimately practicing, and ultimately you preach what you practice. So 7-5 win over Cloud9. Big. Able to go toe-to-toe with Sentinels. 6 games off of them. Not bad. Going into Optic, 10-2 by Optic. That was last week or so. Can't be surprised by that. And then this is classified as a scrim, but this was a Monday Tuesday show match where they took Sentinels to game. It was game 7, but Sentinels won the first 3. G1 then won the next 3 and almost pulled off the reverse sweep. Still going toe-to-toe with the likes of Sentinels, where Sentinels were able to get the best of them. And you're still seeing one thing in common. They're not shaken. They're not. This was not just luck. Even getting a big win against the KCP boys, you know? This was not luck. G1 are the real deal. And now we're going to talk a little bit about their mindset outside of the game, because this is where things get a little bit interesting to me. Like, we go into competitive esports and we think it's all about just, you know, film, practice, and doing what you got to do. However, they've taken a totally different mindset. This is a video of Swish getting LASIK, by the way. So no more glass, which, by the way, so far he's been scrimming and playing in these tournaments with, he looking like me. He out here playing with sunglasses. Like, how do you play like this? I can't even play matchmaking like this, but you telling me you gonna sit here and play competitive Halo at the top level with freaking sunglasses on? I don't, like, what level of brightness do you need your monitor at in order to see some crap like that? Absolutely hilarious. We talk about just the training, putting in that work. It's not just the film review. It's not just the scrims, not just the practice and whatnot. It's you're getting your mind, body, and soul ready, apparently. And this is something that I would have never even thought of. However, I mean, you got all these long tournaments. I mean, at some point, endurance has to take its toll. At some point, these tournaments lasting full days and then full weekends. You're talking about 12, 14-hour days. At some point, I would imagine that your endurance is going to be tested, and it becomes a battle of attrition just almost as much as it becomes a battle of your skill. Maybe the split is closer than we think. Maybe it's not just like a 95-5. Maybe it's an 80-20 skill and also your attrition as well. But you see these guys training and with NFL players, it's so insane. And then you see
I had the right teammates when I played Warzone.
You see them hanging out with champions, like hanging out with some of the best in the craft. This is John Morant, a professional basketball player. Like, eventually, and even celebrating like champions, eventually, you are the company you keep. And if you talk like a champion, you walk like a champion, you hang out with champions, eventually people start seeing you and they start thinking you might just be a champion yourself. Gamers first, ladies and gentlemen. Expectations going into Orlando, I would say walking in the door, guaranteed top 12. I would say legitimately fighting for top 8. But I would also say a stretch goal of top 4 because we've already seen what they can do. I don't want to be a victim of recency bias, so I don't want to sit here and just guarantee top 8 or top 6, especially because not only we talk about the best in the North American region, we're talking about the best in the world coming in. Quadrant, Send, SSG, formerly known as Pittsburgh Knights. There's gonna be a lot of teams that are gunning for those top spots, and G1 will have to fight for it at Orlando. And so again, if you told me to get top 4 at Orlando, I would not be surprised, but I'm gonna say it's not easy. And good luck to Gamers First. Excited to watch their journey because it's been really incredible to watch. I'm Why Not Be Reckless, aka Why Not Be Casting. We do these videos live every day, 10 o'clock in the morning. Make sure you guys get involved, twitch.tv/whynot_casting. And if you miss it, we're uploading it to YouTube every single day. We're putting in the work, absolutely. And then afterwards, we have a little fun by playing a little ranked with viewers. So if you guys want to get involved with that, you're more than happy to do so. Make sure that you use code YNOT, YNOT, for all your G Fuel needs right now. I'm drinking Clickbait. Which I think was my nickname in college, Clickbait. I'm telling you, my photos don't even look nothing like me when I go in real life. And I'll see you guys in the virtual battlefield. Peace.